Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Developing the Leader Within podcast. And I am here with Megan Vaughan, and we're going to be talking about something that is on everybody's mind nowadays, which is personal branding. So, leadership and personal branding. Megan, thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Hi, well, thanks for having me.
Well, before we get into any all that good stuff that we're going to be talking about and educating people, can you take a moment and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Megan, and I am a brand consultant, and I help impact driven consultants better connect and communicate with their audience so they can grow their business and have even more impact.
Outstanding. And that's why I got you on the show. Now, I've been following Megan, folks, for those that are listening, for quite a while. She's a professional at what she does. She's definitely on my list of those go to for when I'm ready to get down that road. And so I encourage everyone to reach out to her. But we're going to be talking about a very important topic, which is personal branding. Now, in leadership, yeah, this is critical. This is basically what you promote on a day to day. And so I'm of one that thinks that you have to set that stage on a daily basis. So, what can you tell me about the stage and doing that as a leader?
Right. So, I mean, when it comes to personal branding, it's really about keeping in mind that it's really about controlling the narrative around who you are and how people are experiencing being around you and if your reputation basically, and just trying to control that as much as humanly possible so that other people aren't, left up to their devices to to make up those stories for you.
Right. The narrative is something that
Mhm.
can get away from you so quickly.
Yep.
And we're always talking about controlling what control what you can control. The other stuff, they just let it go, and don't worry about it because you just can't. But if there's
Mhm.
anything that we can control, is us. It is what we produce, what we put out, and those stories that speak about us when we're not there. Sometimes I joke, but it's true. A leader will either be at the good end of a conversation or bad end of a conversation at a dinner table, where those that you affected during the day will either be talking good about you or talking bad about you. So that's just it. And for those that think that that doesn't happen, wake up. I've done it. I know it's been done about me. It's just what we do. We explain our day, and so those narratives are so important. What
Mhm.
can I do as a leader to gain some control over those narratives?
Yeah, I mean, the first one, it seems kind of obvious, but you got to know what you're about. You have to know your own values. You have to know what your own priorities are. I think sometimes, just as people, we get caught up in thinking we should be a certain way. We should do what people expect of us. And sometimes we even lie to ourselves, like, oh, yeah, prioritize this thing. Like, I'm a family person. And then you like do a time audit and you realize that your family's like the last thing that you give time to, and so you're not acting in integrity at that point when you say that you are this thing but you're not really. So that's where you really have to get honest with yourself about like where you're spending your time, what your values really are, and it's up to you to try and to adjust those if you think that, yeah, like, not this needs work, which is totally fine. But also to just be yourself. There are strengths in that all of us have, and I think it's just finding out like where we shine and doing more of that.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. And I tell you, as soon as you threw the family thing out and a time audit, I
Mhm.
love that because think about what you, especially nowadays, the social media intensive. And it hit me right between the eyes. I'll tell you that right now because when you're running a company, you're running your own endeavors, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing this, then, and the other. I normally take my mornings, my daytime, because my children are in homeschool, and so I usually take that time to invest in the business. But there are times, and my wife will tell you, I'll tell her myself. She'll be like, "Hey, what's going on? We're trying to watch this movie. Hey, what's going on? Your son just asked you a question." Right? So those are those critical moments where you have to say, Hey, yeah, I say I'm a family person. I say I'm this and then the other. You have to keep integrity intact in terms of who you are. And so, hey, if you have to slap your hand, put that phone down, get away from that computer, do so. But if you don't, then you're actually battling against yourself. So,
Yeah.
knowing, and I love how you say, know your values, know what you stand for. What are some ways that I can, as a leader, ensure that those things are being, taken care of?
Well, I mean, I think a good way to also figure it out is ask other people around you. That just to get a good idea of, I think this thing about myself. What do others think? That way, if you know that they are also on the same page, then I would say just kind of look at what you're currently doing, and that's a good way to keep staying, in the lane of continuing to do that. Some practical things are to just write them down and have them in front of you because life happens, and like you said, like you're checking your phone at while watching a movie, you're doing this or that, and it happens and it looks different for everyone. Like you can be a family person and still work on the weekends. It's about setting those boundaries. And so maybe that is really like setting the boundaries of keeping yourself in check. Like, yeah, these things are important to me. Sometimes I have to work on the weekend. And so this is how I'm going to, manage that. Yeah, I think it's really just being really self-aware of just what you're doing, and doing like regular audits and just thinking about how and asking people. I think having that open dialogue with people is really important because um, a lot of leaders kind of focus on themselves, or well, want to be leaders. They focus on themselves and don't focus on the other people because it really comes down to how others are experiencing being around you. Like kind of going back to that foundational stage. It's about serving others.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned how others view a certain situation, right? Because you could actually be addressing an issue that needs to be addressed at the time. Maybe
Mhm.
not you're not just surfing for the sake of being on the devices, but that brings me to this point of that there are narratives that go on when crises, right? There's these conversations that you have as leaders and during nice times that speak to what you are. But I'm
Mhm.
thinking nowadays this world condition, this world circumstance is really creating some pain points for those that cannot work well in crises. And so that situation can actually chip away at your personal brand. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, a crisis really reveals who you are and what your brand is about, and doesn't define it. I think a lot of people, when something like this happens, are like, now's the time for me to develop my brand. When really, no, it's just revealing what's been there all along. Kind of going back to the integrity piece and your values, like going back to the family example. Um, if you think family is a really important thing, but you're not allowing your employees, you're not allowing people that you're working with that same grace, like maybe they're working from home, maybe their family's home, it's difficult, and you have to have those difficult conversations, but you're not allowing them to, give them more of a break because their family's home, but you say family's important. I mean, you can see where there's a disconnect. And so having those tough conversations while keeping your values in mind and making sure that doesn't just apply to you, but applies to, how you're applying that to other people and giving them that same grace, I think is really important.
I totally agree with that. It is a critical thing for a leader to consider what they're fighting against, but they're raising a flag for, right? So those things don't ever fare well for leadership because, like I said earlier, right, there's conversations that happen after work, and you don't always want to uh, be at the top of their list of who they're talking about in a negative way,
Yep.
but at least when they talk about you, that they can talk about you in a positive light whenever they do, and making
Yeah.
sure that what you say you're actually for, that you're actually for across the board. So that was great.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, it's kind of comes down to problem solving, I think, because it's working with like, how can you make the situation better, and how can you help problem solve that rather than just come down and like provide an answer. It's allowing the people around you to come up with solutions with you to help collaborate. I think that, so in a tough situation, it's not about you having all the answers, it's about you being willing and open going into the situation and saying, all right, here are the facts. What can we do to make this better so that it's working for everybody and everyone's happy and we're accomplishing the goal? And I think that's the point of the leader, right? You're there to accomplish a certain goal, and how you get there, I think it's through that collaboration and that communication.
Outstanding. What would you suggest for someone that is just starting out in our and really identifying their personal brand?
I mean, the values piece, and then sharing the knowledge that you have and not keeping it so close to your chest. I think sometimes we get stuck in this scarcity mindset of, oh, I can't give this away because, especially in corporate, I'm sure it's happened. People steal your ideas and you don't get the credit. But a leader, at the end of the day, is not so concerned about them succeeding necessarily. It's about the team succeeding. So I think that's where sharing your ideas, sharing your knowledge, helping others reach their potential, and sharing their gifts as well. I think that's all part of being a leader. And so you just, something small, help uplift someone else, share the knowledge that you have, that you've learned, whether even if you're just learning it. I think sharing, like, hey, I just read this thing, I thought that was really cool, what do you think about it? It's such a simple thing to do, but people start coming to you because they know that you're interested in this and that you have thoughts on it. Give your opinion, have an opinion. But like, sometimes you worry about your opinion being wrong, basically, or there maybe something doesn't fit the mold. But I think overall you can have an opinion about something and be vocal about it, but also be open to how others think about that particular situation, or whatever idea.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I totally agree. Megan, if someone wanted to get a hold of you for your services or to have a chat over personal branding, how would they do that?
I think the best way is just to find me on LinkedIn. You can just Megan Vaughan. And I do have a strategy guide, or it's a like anatomy of a strategic brand. So it's geared a little bit more towards people who are an entrepreneur, have their like a business. But I think there's a lot of really good information about finding your purpose beyond making money or being the leader. It can help you kind of brainstorm just what you're about and how to kind of set a direction for yourself. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn and you can grab that. It's free. So yeah.
Outstanding. Well, folks, you heard it from Megan. Reach out to her. She does great work. I've seen it throughout this year as I've been following her work. And so you won't be disappointed. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us. And I hope for the leaders out there that you're taking your personal brand seriously. It speaks far after you are at your job or you've done your position with your position. It just speaks about you. So take care of it. Everybody, thank you for being with us. And as we love to close this show, success to you.